All right. Those of you who knew my mom, Frida, knew she was a fearless force of nature. When I was a little kid, during the McCarthy era of the 1950s, early 1950s, I watched my mom stare down FBI agents and basically tell them to go suck eggs when they asked her about her activities and to name names of those other involved people. Those threatening visits by J. Edgar Hoover's goons never seemed to deter my mom from pursuing activities that the government, and specifically the House Un-American Activities Committee, apparently felt were un-American and communist. Things like civil rights, gender equality, nuclear disarmament, peace, and loving thy neighbor. However, as politically savvy and tuned in as Frida was, all the way to her passing at age 95, she never came close to understanding the internet. When my son staggered home unsuccessfully, spending the entire afternoon trying to teach his grandma how to send an email, he said, describing his frustration, "At first, I just wanted to commit suicide. And then I wanted to commit homicide." Yet, despite her abject cluelessness to anything technological, something happened that can only be described as a hiccup in the space-time continuum. Completely out of the blue, Frida buys a large stake of Netflix stock at $20 a share at a time when, well, who knew from Netflix? She then goes to Best Buy, comes home with a huge flat screen TV and sophisticated DVD player, gets Lisco to install a fiber optic line, has my sister sign her up on Netflix, and gets me to manage her account. So like the good son I am, I select a movie for her each week, alternating between a Danny Kaye or Gene Kelly movie and something more current. And on Friday evening, Shelley and I would go to my mom's house to watch it with her. By the way, I'm still using Frida's Netflix account. Frida eventually sells her stake in Netflix when it exceeded $400 a share. She claimed the secret was her gypsy earring. So far, this has just been a long intro to the real point of the story. The story is really about how my mom would strenuously object to the ever-present use of the F word in the movies I would pick. Her annoyance finally boiled over, and she screamed at the actor on the TV. "The proper word is coitus." Now, if that had been a one-off occurrence, I would have happily let it dissolve into the ozone, but it didn't end there. Frida felt compelled, without prompting, to tell everyone she encountered. The cleaning lady, a random guy in the elevator, the cashier at Hy-Vee. You know, the proper word is coitus. Each time I'd cringe, "Mom, enough with the coitus already." But my entreaties were ignored. Coitus became her go-to line wherever we went. She thought it was hilarious. And so did her grandson. Jake was one of only 12 junior year college kids from the Midwest chosen to be 6-month interns at IBM in Rochester, Minnesota in 2013. And while there one evening, he tried his hand at stand-up at the local comedy club. After his first attempt, he told me that for his next time, he'd do a routine about grandma and coitus. Initially, I was horrified. But upon further reflection, the idea of his upcoming gig got my juices flowing, and I wrote him a dialogue between two foul-mouthed mafia thugs, substituting language that Frida would approve. I then sent it to Jake. When I told my mom about how Jake's new stand-up routine referenced her and coitus, she was thrilled, saying she hoped she'd be able to hear it one day. Alas, a couple of months later, my mom had to be taken to the hospital. Things got progressively worse, to the point where she was in such bad shape, I didn't think she'd last in time for my sister to arrive from Oregon later that afternoon. Yet that evening she rebounded, and without my telling anyone, word got out, and her hospital room quickly filled with about 20 of her friends. Frida energetically held court. Jake arrived from Rochester, and to my mom's delight, delivered the stand-up sketch I had written for him. But our rebound was short-lived. The next morning, the hospital called. We should come immediately, that this was the end. As we gathered around her bed, professing our love, some of the efforts to help her make a smooth transition were having zero effect, and Frida wasn't speaking and was clearly having difficulty transitioning. She wanted to go and was having great difficulty. After a couple of agonizing hours, a nurse suggested a bit of morphine would help her relax and make the transition easier. Mom silently approved. Unfortunately, it was Saturday, and no doctor was present in the hospital to prescribe the morphine. Nurses scurried about, but had no success locating the doctor on call. Tempers flared, nurses panicked, Mom continued to writhe in pain, and still no doctor. Then, amid that unbearable tension, Frida finally broke her silence and spoke her last words. Fucking doctors. We cracked up. We couldn't help it. It was so uncharacteristic, so unexpected. Frida, what happened to coitus? Someone joked. And we laughed some more. She's dying, and we're laughing. My mother is dying, and I'm laughing. Finally, I realized what she was doing. She wants to leave us laughing, I said. Mom pointed at me and nodded. That's when the morphine arrived and Frida passed on. So, what happened to the comedy bit between the two thugs? Well, Shakespeare, move your derriere over. Here to perform this iconic piece of deathless prose are Meredith Machine Gun Simpson and Richard the Ice Pick Morell. And if I were smart, I'd hide in the bathroom until it was over. By the way, if you happen to need a transition back to the vernacular, I'm sure Richard and Meredith will accommodate you. Mom, this is for you.
What the coitus, Bugsy? You urinate me off!
Sorry, boss, but I ain't defecating yous.
Don't copulate with me, Bugs! You know what I do with anal sphincters.
Look, I realize that JD's a sharply pointed male generative organ, and Pam is a total fibromuscular tubular tract, but I swear I ain't excreting yous.
Jesus, copulating Christ, I know Pam can be an offspring-producing canine, but I'm serious. This better not be a load of evacuate.
No, boss, it's true. Bondi is known for exhale employment.
Holy intestinally discharged waste material! Really? Oh, but mark my words. If this is bovine excrement, I'll put a mother-curdling bullet between your female parent conjugating eyes, you phallus siphoning piece of fecal matter.
I'll be honest, when Fred first sent me that piece, I was like, we can't do this. It's offensive, it's a little bit sexist. And then I was like, I've seen much worse stuff at SNL and whatever, we're doing this. Thank you, Fred. But I think your first part of the story was the star of the show. Thank you, Richard.